Hello and welcome. The debut of Jonah Hex in 1971 almost seems like a direct response to not only the clean-cut, sterile Western comics that preceded him, but also to the popularity of the anti-hero found in spaghetti westerns. Hex was a scarred, vicious bounty hunter that continued to wear his Confederate jacket long after the end of the American Civil War, which was a less than subtle way of announcing he was both a loser and an outsider within the country he lived in. And while any symbol of the Confederacy is usually visual shorthand for a racist, Jonah Hex, the comic book that is, went out of its way to ensure the audience that Jonah Hex continued to wear that jacket as a symbol that he was disillusioned by the Civil War and, ultimately, the motivation behind it. In fact, Jonah Hex surrendered during the war in protest of those who opposed the Emancipation Proclamation. A few years after his debut, Jonah Hex got his own solo series that lasted almost 100 issues, and it only ended because the Crisis on Infinite Earths reset button was pressed by DC. This event wiped out all of the established continuity, and gave creators an opportunity to modernize characters without the burden of contradicting their prior history. Following the Crisis event, it was decided to try something new with the Jonah Hex character. So Jonah Hex was abducted from his Western setting and thrown into a futuristic post-apocalyptic world. This series, while not terrible, was not the proper setting for the character, and the comic was subsequently cancelled after 18 issues in 1987. Jonah Hex sat in the timeout chair until 1993, when the newly established Vertigo Comics imprint published the first of 3 miniseries starring the character. The first miniseries, Two Gun Mojo, is probably the best of the batch. In it, Jonah Hex goes up against a traveling Wild West show that features the zombified corpse of Wild Bill Hickok. In the second miniseries, Riders of the Worm and Such, Jonah finds himself at a ranch being plagued by the offspring of a Lovecraftian alien demon type of thing. Like the prior miniseries, it's a blood-soaked romp that's as strange as it should be. This miniseries did get the creative team and DC into a legal battle with Johnny and Edgar Winter. These brothers are both notable Texan musicians, who are probably equally known as being albinos. Now, in Riders of the Worm and Such, these brothers were parodied as the Autumn Brothers, a pair of albino, incestuous, rather grotesque offspring of the Lovecraftian alien. This parody didn't sit well with either brother, and they sued DC, claiming their depiction in the comic book was essentially defamation of character. It took 8 years, but the lawsuit was finally settled in favor of DC. In the third and final Vertigo miniseries, Shadows West, Jonah Hex joins a circus of freaks, and he discovers the unpleasant conditions for one of the members. If I'm being honest, this one feels a little like it was a contractual obligation. The tone seems a bit off in comparison to the preceding 2 miniseries. Perhaps the lawsuit for the prior miniseries made them approach this one with a little more caution, and that's reflected in the material. Regardless, all 3 miniseries did have the perfect creative team working on the most appropriate character for their talents. The writer, Joe R. Lansdale, is one of my own personal favorites. If he's known at all, it's for his Hap and Leonard series of modern noir books, although some may know him as the writer of the Bruce Campbell movie, Bubba Hotep. But maybe not. He's not exactly obscure, but at the same time he's not the most well-known author. What he's best at is mixing genres together, adding some appropriate humor, and coming up with a unique story with a very particular voice. And this voice is absolutely perfect for the Jonah Hex character. The artist, Timothy Truman, is, well, Timothy Truman. And Sam Glanzman is a veteran inker, like, literally. Following World War II, he spent the bulk of his career writing and drawing war stories. These 2 illustrators working together bring an unusual level of authenticity to the comic book page. By that I mean the setting and characters all look like they're actually in the Wild West. It looks so gritty and grimy, I kind of feel like washing my hands after reading an issue. While the final miniseries feels flawed, the first 2 are worth a read, even if you have no interest in westerns. As previously mentioned, Joe R. Lansdale is a master of flawlessly blending genres, in this case, westerns and horror. And that seems like the ideal tone and setting for the disfigured bounty hunter, Jonah Hex.